And welcome to episode 29?
I believe it
20,
is.
29 of Coach's
Yes.
Corner with Justin Ethan. I'm Coach Justin.
And I am Coach Ethan.
We are your trusted advisors of all things health and fitness. Just a little background in case you guys don't know us. Maybe this is the first episode. We have been doing this for a very long time, 20 years or so.
H.
We each, so combined almost 40 years of coaching people in weight loss and nutrition, and we've owned gyms together. We each have our own business at this point, working with people in person, online, you name it. And so we're here today to talk a little bit about detoxing and what the hell detoxing even means, if it even means anything, and like why one might get to the point in their life where they feel like they need to detox, and is what they're actually detoxing or what they're doing having any
Right.
sort of long-term benefit.
Yeah, the detox diet especially I think is the particular angle of like, do you need to do a detox diet? Is a detox diet a good avenue or route to actually achieve any type of sustainable weight loss? And
Yeah.
just what are the overall kind of like you were saying perspectives of just why are you detoxing? What is the purpose? What are the values? Is there value? What's really happening?
So I guess let's start with just like why someone might get to the point in their life where they feel as though they need to detox, and what they're hoping to achieve from said detox. So I don't know. I mean, listen, I'll say if you don't understand how our body actually works, and if you don't understand just like the fact that eating healthy food and exercising is already kind of clearing out the system in some way, then I can see how it's alluring to want to believe that
Yes.
there's something more powerful than just good daily habits and routines that can somehow like almost like push a reset button on our bodies or something like that, right?
Right. It's like a car wash for the body in a lot of ways, like I think about it. It's like we have this perception that we've clogged the pipes and gotten dirty, and you can kind of run it through the car wash and you come out all squeaky clean. And this kind of acute short process is like, oh, hooray, I've kind of fixed things up and made
Right.
things better.
Right. Like when your internet router starts slowing down and you just go in there and just push the little reset button, hold it down for
Right.
a
Do
few
the
seconds, and all of
unplug,
a sudden,
10
yeah,
seconds, plug it back in.
yeah. But you made a good point when we were getting ready for this call of just like there's no other system. What was your point again? There's no other
Well, so
system than what we
basically, I
already
think the
have.
idea that like going into a detox diet or a cleanse doesn't inherently create a new system or a new process in your body of elimination that doesn't already exist. So fundamentally, it's like your body is very good at eliminating pollutants and toxins out of your body already, and those processes are already happening all the time. Now, I think there are varying degrees of like efficiency based on like your hydration level, how much movement you're doing, and fiber and other things of that nature. But fundamentally, it's not like doing a detox or cleanse kind of switches on some process or mode in your body that's not already happening. You know?
Totally, yeah. I mean, like our lymphatic system, our digestive system, our everything is already working to move out toxins.
Yes. I mean,
And
it's like, yeah, there's so many excretory processes. I mean, our excretion, sweating, digestion. I mean, and like you said, lymph, like all of that. I mean, it's primarily through like pooping and peeing and sweat that we remove all these things. But like you said, the
Mhm.
lymphatic system is draining all of the metabolic waste and cell debris. And, your liver is filtering your blood and your kidneys are also filtering. And so it's like there's a lot of that going on. Now, I do want to say the caveat doesn't mean I don't think that there aren't compounds or chemicals like forever chemicals that are found from plastics and fragrances and dyes that can't get in your body. But even with that being said, in our modern day, urban lifestyle, it's still the fact that your body is doing its best to eliminate and remove these things already. It's happening. It's not, you can't turn on some magic switch to all of a sudden just you be like, hey, here you go.
Yeah, and it's for me, it's like when I hear people going into like their a detox or any sort of like juice cleanse or like not a colonoscopy. What's the thing that people do
Colonic.
elective? The colonic, all these things. It's interesting because it's like these are also people who tend to struggle with consistency. Like if I can think of three people right off the top of my head, this is absolutely anecdotal, and I'll admit that I don't have any sort of research on this to back it up, but just have been in this world for so long in the fitness and nutrition and health and weight loss, and people will tell me, oh, I'm going to get a colonic or I'm doing this 10-day, and they want my validation to be like, oh yeah, hell yeah, good job, because they think that that's health. They think that like, oh, this health professional, I'm going to tell him what I'm doing, expecting me to be like, oh, I love those, man. I do one every year. In fact, I'm always like, why? And they look at me like, well, what do you mean why? And I realize how mainstream it is and how normalized doing these sort of juice cleanses and detoxes have become over the
Right.
last generation. But the thing that I've also observed is that the people who tell me this are the ones that would benefit by just getting their nutrition and their exercise consistently. Like all the things that they're hoping to accomplish
Yeah.
from a juice cleanse or a detox is actually the product of just being really consistent with just some basic exercise and nutrition principles. Because if you've gotten to a point in your life where you feel like you need to detox because you feel like poisoned or gross, it probably just means your lifestyle is shit, you know?
Right, and that's what I was gonna say. You asked that question of like why a person. It's like one, they probably got overweight, probably have like low energy. They probably just like feel like shit all the time. And I think to what you just said there, that like realistically, that's gonna come from a stacking of just poor lifestyle decisions. Right? If you're just like eating like crap, you're not getting good sleep, you're not hydrated, you're not exercising in any capacity, that's gonna start to catch up with you, and eventually you're gonna feel like you're pumping sludge through your veins. You're just
Mm-hmm.
gonna feel bogged down. You're gonna feel heavy. You're just moving your body, especially if you're overweight. But even if you don't exercise, you're just gonna feel laborious, And so I think it's like those times. And the thing is like I'll give some credit to like the notion of a reset. I think sometimes there is like a mental or psychological, emotional component to kind of just like taking a moment, cleaning the slate, and using that to kind of like get back on the horse to then make consistent lifestyle decisions. But
Mm-hmm.
the overarching truth is that it is the consistent lifestyle decisions that are what is important. And I think some people might use like the jump start to do it, but the fundamental bottom line is that if it only lasts a week or you jump start, your behavior changes and they last for 3 weeks, and you kind of return to maybe eating processed foods, you're not cooking at home, not getting any exercise in, and not getting good sleep. Fundamentally, you're going to start to feel like shit again, and that
Yeah.
little itch
Yeah.
is going to come in because the truth is, if you're eating out all the time, or say you're eating processed foods, and then you kind of go to this extreme situation where you're eliminating most foods you eat, because most of the time you're either fasting or doing a bone broth or just doing some type of like green shake. It's very, very limited calories normally. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to feel better in a way, because you're going to have this kind of like, one, you're not going to be focused on all this food. Your day is going to get really simplified. And I think in the very first moment, you might have like some clarity and a burst of energy, because your body's kind of running off adrenaline and you're kind of regulating your blood sugar. But I think ultimately you're going to find that you also will crash and you're not going to have any energy. So you're not going to probably
Mm-hmm.
be exercising, because you're not going to be consuming many, if any, calories. And it's just one of those things where I think the appeal, because is going to potentially make you feel better, because you're going to kind of streamline your life for a short amount of time. So if you were to do like
Right.
a week long juice cleanse, I think by the end of the week, you might start getting cranky. You might start feeling the lack of energy because you're only consuming a few hundred calories. But I think for the first 3 days, there's the potential for, well, now my life's streamlined. I'm not going out to dinner. I'm not drinking. All these things are removed.
Right.
So maybe it's like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to go to bed at 9 o'clock because I don't got anything else going on and I'm hungry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like now these pieces are falling into place, and you kind of start to feel better, and you start to feel like you're making some progress, when really, if you could commit to just getting to bed on time and eating some clean whole foods in the first place, you'd probably get a lot of the same benefit that would actually stick around.
And I would just wonder, like, all that's true, and I totally like. I think it's more psychological than physical anything, right? Like, it's like physiologically, you're not gonna like change much in a week, you know. But I think the psychological commitment of I'm doing this thing, like this perceived sort of like short-term sacrifice for a perceived long-term payoff. But I guess that's where I go in and go, but is there really any sort of long-term payoff? Because everything you just said was valid and true, and I understand like this desire for some sort of structure in people's lives, especially when they've gotten to the point where they feel as though they need to detox from something.
Right.
But but what's after that? Because typically these are the type of folks that have probably done this before, and
Yeah.
their behavior set has gotten to them to the point where they feel like they need to detox from something. And so, what behavioral changes are in place post cleanse, detox, reset, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that we don't just repeat this vicious cycle indefinitely where we burn through 6 to 12 months of shitty lifestyle behavior and then detox and then feel good, because there's probably more placebo than anything scientific that's happening, you know, like, but the placebo effect's just as good as any effect. So if they
It's
feel like
true.
they've
It's
done
crazy.
something, then maybe they have. But yeah, I mean, that's
No, I'm with
the
it. It's one of those things too that like there's a fair amount of actual research because I was looking into it a little bit, but fundamentally, like any weight, there is the opportunity to lose some weight in a 3 day, 4 day, 5 day bone
sure.
broth cleanse, juice cleanse, fast. Like your scale's gonna move, but realistically, if you don't engage in different behaviors, you're gonna gain the weight back. It's just like a fairly certain fact. And so, like I have clients that do it. I know other people that do it, and they've had a bad few weeks. They've been drinking a lot of wine and they've had birthdays and parties. And they're like, all right, I'm going to do a bone broth, 5 day bone broth cleanse. And they come back and they're like, oh, I lost 7 pounds or 6 pounds or whatever it is in that week. And like, besides a lot of that being like your carbohydrates leaving your body and the water that's associated with them and that weight not actually reflecting your body fat percentage, it's one of those things that like, that probably makes them feel better, but that weight loss is extremely temporary. And so I think just like fundamentally as a whole, just like using a detox or a cleanse as a weight loss tool is just not, it's just the foolish thing. Because like one of the things is like the level of effort is really high. And this was something that when we were kind of discussing about the show of, like what's going to disrupt your life more? And what's going to cause like more kind of chaos or more difficulty, more hardship in general, right? And so, yes, in one hand, there might be so much lack of structure that a person doing a detox or a cleanse creates so much structure that it's like you're caged up or you're put in the lane, and it's comforting and it feels like you're accomplishing something. But it's like you were using the analogy of like saving money. And it's like if you were to put $100 away every month for 3 years versus like dumping your entire
Hmm.
salary for 2 months
Hmm.
into savings, like what's going to be more disruptive to your life and what's
Right.
ultimately going to have a better outcome. Now, like, no, granted, in that instance, you might have to save money in a short amount of time, but the body doesn't really work that way. It's not the same. And,
Right.
it's like fundamentally the amount of effort is high and the amount of support you generally have is almost zero unless you're working one on
Yep.
one with the coach, which most people aren't, especially for like a detox or a cleanse, or you're
Right.
like part of some like online group, which most people aren't. So you're kind of interjecting this like extremely high effort, high kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Turbulent behavior or
Yeah.
thing into
Yeah.
your life with no external support. And it's like fundamentally what's going to cause more chaos and disruption to your patterns and your
Hmm.
homeostasis than like kind of starving yourself or being really, really hungry and being cranky, not
Yeah.
having energy to exercise or do your job or play your kids. It's like fundamentally, it's just like it's like a challenge. It's like this very
It's a challenge.
difficult thing that's
Exactly. Exactly. And it's sort of like when you think of people who are more consistent with their exercise, more consistent with their nutrition, their sleep, their hydration, like, well, what would they need a detox for, right? Like, they're already kind of there. They wouldn't need to do that. They wouldn't need to disrupt their lives. And I say that because then the opposite is true, right? Where the people who do a cleanse or a detox or bone broth, whatever, they're usually their lives are chaotic up to that point, but just in a different direction. And so it's like this crazy, like volatile swing from one end of the spectrum to the other, like
Yes.
that is disruptive. But it's like the goal is to be better, to be healthy, to lose weight maybe, or to just feel better. But I guess to elaborate on your analogy, or the one that we talked about earlier of just like the savings account, it's like, you know, if you if you take an entire month's salary and put it all in your retirement account, well, now you're broke. And now you got to pull your credit cards out, and now you got to like overcompensate for that aggressive thing versus just a tiny little bit of your income every month over time. Everybody would agree that that's the appropriate way to go, right? Like everyone on planet Earth would be like, yes, do that. But somehow with nutrition and exercise and weight loss, it's like we just got bought into this like like this violent approach to it where it's like
Yeah.
75 hard, tough. I'm gonna sign up for a marathon. I just got to give myself, a reason. And it's just like, man, yeah, but 20 years later, like one marathon in your life, one detox in your life, one tough mudder means nothing. It means nothing. Like just because you were 110% for like a moment, a sliver in time, it's like the
Yes.
tortoise and the hare versus just bit by bit every day figuring out how you can make this a much more sustainable approach in your life, which is going to get you to the result that you want ultimately. But like people just have such a hard time with wrapping their minds around or even believing that it's not a silver bullet, it's 1,000 little BBs, and the little BBs come in the shape of the 20-minute walk that you ritualize every day,
Right.
the Sunday meal grocery shopping so you
Yeah, the
get your
cooking your
food
own
in the
food,
fridge,
right? Yep.
you know, like getting 10 different 15-minute recipes on rotation that you can just, quickly throw together for yourself. Like
Going
those are
to
the
bed
little
on
BBs.
time, like
Yeah, I mean, I got a guy right now that I'm working with. It's crazy. He's 50 years old, um, and always has been like a martial artist and an athlete his whole life. Always had a six pack. Always used to be super lean. And then like this last few years, he's just like put on like 20 pounds out of nowhere. So he's working with me. He's a disciplined guy. He's a regimented guy. And I'm looking at his stuff, and I mean, we got his calories dialed in. He's doing his walk every day. He's hitting the weights 4 days a week. Like I had him down to 1,800 calories, and some days he wouldn't even hit all 1,800. And he's eating clean food, but the weight's just staying on him. And upon further investigation, I mean, he has not lost a pound in 4 months, which is crazy. It's like such an
that's
anomaly. Like
crazy.
never, yeah. And but he doesn't sleep.
Just
Doesn't
doesn't
sleep.
sleep.
So puts the kids down at 9. And then he's like, then it's just like me time from like 10 a.m. to 2, 10 p.m. to like 2, 3 a.m. And he's like, then I get up at 6. And I'm like,
Oh man.
so best case scenario, getting 3, 4 hours of sleep a night? He's like, yeah, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, bro, like, the one thing, the one thorn that will disrupt, you could be perfect in everything else, but if you are just bagging your sleep, it's like, you're just never gonna happen. So it's like, you go ahead, detox for 10 days. Go ahead, sign up for a marathon, detox. But like fundamentally, man, like if your sleep sucks and you're eating fucking Chinese takeout 4 nights a week, you're not exercising, you're forgetting to drink water, like
Right.
go
Exactly.
ahead.
Yeah. It's like I think the detox diet that I think would be worthwhile is one that like removes like highly processed, high fat, sugary foods. Like
Yeah.
that's fundamentally the thing that I think it's like in a nutshell in terms of thinking about food and removing things to make your body healthier and happier. It's just, removing highly processed, high fat, high sugar foods. And again, it's not to say you can never have a donut, but that like if you're eating those kinds of foods consistently, that's probably going to be the thing that's going to make you feel the worst over a long haul.
For
And if you're
sure.
eating whole
For sure.
foods, single source ingredient proteins and fruits and vegetables in your own homemade recipes, the likelihood of you like feeling like shit pending you're sleeping, it's like it's not going to be there in the same way. But if you're
No.
eating takeout and fast food and just processed cheeses and just it's just those are the things that are going to really stack up and make you feel like crap In the end, in my opinion.
It's this, yeah, exactly. It's like the sodium bombs. Like we went out and like, we just obviously flew into Ohio, lovely Ohio, at Tanya's parents' house. And we got in kind of late, and so it was just like her mom like ordered Thai food for us.
Yeah,
Delicious.
so good.
But sure as shit, this morning I woke up, I'm like, oh man, like, you load up on what I've realized, any ethnic food, right? And I say that as somebody who loves Mexican food, I love Chinese, I love it all. But I'll be the first one to tell you, I've just seen it. Like if you have Thai food, if you have Chinese, if you have pizza, if you have
I think it's just
Mexican, like
takeout in general, man. I think it's like
takeout in
eating out,
general. But
period.
even like sushi, like it's just like, yeah, the salt bomb. It's just you
The
can't
salt
get
is
away from
crazy.
it, and that's what makes people just feel puffy and inflamed, and then they think, and they associate that with like a detox.
Oh,
It's like if you're
well,
always
that I mean,
puffy and
and
inflamed.
yeah, well, and then you said it. I mean, because that's the thing. It's like if you start just drinking a tremendous amount of liquid and extremely low calorie, your body is gonna get to like kind of like release all of the salts and you know get rid of
Hmm.
all of the kind of extra fluids and inflammation that's in there. I mean, it's 100%. I mean, I just found like when you cook, so I love to cook. I cook all the time, and so it's like even when I'm cooking to make food taste good, the amount of salt that I put in, I'm like, oh man, that seems like a lot of salt. If you're in a restaurant, the amount of salt that they use is flabbergasting. It is just
Mm.
unreal to see in the sauce, on the meat, in the veggies. They are just
Everything.
dumping it on. And
Like
I think people don't
finishing
realize,
salt
yeah,
when it's over.
yeah, just no
Yeah.
matter, and it doesn't matter. I mean, like, no doubt, like saltier foods, like Chinese food, for example, that has a lot of salty sauces and soy sauce based sauces. But
Hmm.
anything, man, absolutely anything is going to be so high in salt. So, for example,
Hmm.
even last night, so I'm weighing in at 195, 195.1 2 days ago or yesterday,
Mm. Hmm.
first thing in the morning. So then last night we're sitting down for dinner. I have a homemade fish taco. So I got cod, seasoned it myself, a homemade corn tortilla, super easy to make, a homemade like Greek yogurt dressing. I have that. But then Amanda got to take home some fried chicken, some Jollibee, which is like a Filipino fried
Yeah, yeah,
chicken.
I know. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, from work. And so we split that. It was a leg and a thigh and some mashed potatoes with gravy. Little container mashed potatoes with gravy. I got to eat the little thigh, and it was a small thigh. Then I got 2 bites of the leg, and then we split the mashed potatoes with the gravy. The mashed potatoes and gravy is probably what did it, the amount of salt. But like, I
For
weighed in
sure.
3 pounds heavier this morning. And I mean,
It's
my
crazy.
day was light on food. Like, I was going to bed hungry because I just didn't eat that much food. You know what I mean? Like, I had like a yogurt, like a yogurt, cheese seed, mango, and then like a square meal, and then that meal for my whole day. And so, but I gained 3 pounds in a night, and I was like,
Yeah.
wow! I jumped on the scale today, and I was like 198, and I was like, oh shit, okay. And I
Exactly.
thought about it, and I was like,
Exactly.
without question, it was the Jollibee,
Dude,
and we're talking
and it's
such
not
a
even
small
that
portion.
much. Totally. Yeah. And like that's the thing is like the average person eats that or some version of that and they think not bad, little chicken, some mashed potatoes, like what's so wrong with that?
Yeah, like, oh, my
It's like,
portions weren't that big. Like, I limited myself to my portions, which calorically is valid, but like,
but yeah, but still it's like it has nothing to do with calories, it's nothing to do with body fat. It's just the it's sodium, man. That's really what it is. It's like, we're
yeah,
talking 5, 6,000 milligrams in a day if you're eating out versus like if you make your own food only getting maybe 2,000 milligrams,
yeah,
2,500 milligrams,
2,500 maybe, depending on
which
what
is
you're making.
normal. But I mean, it's crazy because I had a guy who couldn't help himself. He was just like constantly going through Carl's Jr. and like fast food. And the benefit of that was that when he would enter his food into the meal tracker app, because Carl's Jr. or whoever they would go, like they have their sodium levels kind of listed, and so I would see, I'm like, and he'd eat out fast food twice in a day sometimes, and so it'd be
Yep.
like, fat like Carl's Jr. breakfast sandwich or Burger King breakfast, and then Carl's Jr. for lunch, and I'm like, bro, 7,000 milligrams. It's like
That's
3, 4x the daily
your
recommended
daily
amount.
value. Oh
I'm
man.
like, yeah, that's why you shot up 5 pounds in a night. And so I think that it's like this is what happens. This is why people they don't think that what they're doing is bad, and bad's a hard label. It's not like, listen, sometimes you just gotta eat, like sometimes you gotta do takeout. Like last night, like what we gonna do? We got in late, like it's just you have to do
Yeah.
it, and that's okay. But it's just more of understanding, like,
Yes.
like if this becomes the norm where, you know, we're tired, let's just order in. We're tired, let's just order in. It's like it feels harmless, it feels normal, but the reality is that you're sitting there with your face feels like it's a water balloon that the scale keeps climbing, and you're just like you feel lethargic, and you're waking up in the morning all thirsty because you're so, and it's
Yeah.
like it's not a detox that's going to fix this. It is
Yeah.
just the fact that like you have to get in the driver's seat of your food and you have to make better choices. So what I would recommend is, if you want to fucking detox, go low FODMAP for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Like if you just need this like rigidity in your mind, the fuck a bone broth, fuck a juice cleanse, it's gonna leave you with zero tangible benefit and skill in the long run. The difference with the FODMAP though is like now, and for people who don't know, it's
I
essentially
was
like
about to
an
say it. What is
elimination
that?
diet.
Yep.
It's an elimination, right? So essentially what we're doing is we're looking at known foods that typically cause some sort of allergy, like nightshades, gluten, dairy, those are like the big ticket ones. And you just simplify your food. But the reason why the low FODMAP would be so beneficial for someone who feels as though they're at a point in their life where they need a detox from something is that it's going to leave you with a real skill set, and it's going to give you tons of awareness
Yeah.
afterwards. So you eliminate everything. Basically, you're eating super lean, clean proteins
And
and a limited
vegetables,
amount of
right? And
veggies and
then,
fruits, and like, like simple foods for a few weeks. And then the idea is you systematically bring back gluten and dairy one at a time in isolation, so there's no other variables that can mess up, and you just see, okay, my body is now pure because I've basically only had low FODMAP food for 2 or 3 weeks, and now I bring back in dairy. So
yeah.
no,
How
there's
do I
no other
feel?
variable. No other variable. I just bring back dairy. And you see, now did you shoot up? Do you feel bloated and puffy and
You get
like
more
lethargic?
mucus.
Yeah, cool. Now you probably have some sort of intolerance to lactose. You can put that on like the don't eat list or eat with caution list. And then you give yourself a few days, clear out again, then bring back another thing like gluten. Oh, I eat bread and pasta and I felt totally fine. Great. Now we know. And the idea is you just kind of assemble your own list of things that are good and healthy for you, and like don't disrupt your system too much. But the beautiful thing about that is you just immediately will feel better. You will then have tons of crazy awareness on what's working for your body and what doesn't.
Yep.
And then you'll just understand that, like, okay, like if we have pasta, like I'll understand that the reason why I'm puffy and bloated the next day isn't because I need to detox. It's because I have some sort of irritation with gluten because I've tested it. And it's so
Right, and
much
you can
more
kind of exactly, you can
scientific.
make that educated decision. It's like it's just having that
Yeah.
understanding. It's like if you have foods that are kind of irritant to you, but you aren't necessarily allergic, well, at least you now know that eating them kind of comes with some type of sidecar of experience
Hmm.
that you can expect and navigate without it being like, oh, why can't I think today? Or, I didn't
Right.
sleep very well. It's like, oh. And also back to the salt, I find that like when I eat a really salty meal, my digestion is crap. Like the times that I eat a fairly sized meal and then it just sits in my stomach forever, I
Hmm.
always find it's because I do high salt. Like I noticed it was like Chipotle. Like I haven't eaten Chipotle in many years at this point, but I remember when I used to eat Chipotle, I'd get like a Chipotle bowl and I'd kind of go at it and eat most of it till I was full. And I would just like that shit would just sit in my stomach. And I'd think, I'm like, it's all kind of whole foods, right? It's just like meat and beans and some cheese. But like even the
Avocado,
cheese, I
yeah.
wouldn't even often get the cheese even. And so I'd be like, oh, what's going on? Like, why is this not digesting? And then I
Hmm.
eventually started to correlate, like if I was also already a little bit dehydrated, it would be even worse. There's only like once I
Hmm.
started drinking water, but it's just like those high salt foods, especially depending on your hydration level already, can be very hard to digest and assimilate. And so I think
Totally.
it's also like if you're experiencing digestive issues and you happen to be eating out or eating high salt foods, that's just another thing to consider. It's like, yeah, would a detox aid in the sense of removing all that salty food? But it's like I think, it's just that awareness is key because it's not to say I don't eat like a Philly cheesesteak sometimes. I just know that if I do that, that shit's gonna sit in my stomach for a hot minute,
I
and
mean,
I'm probably gonna have
yeah.
like the fucking rock in my belly, and
For
that's gonna be
sure,
that,
for sure.
you know?
Dude, I mean, like, whenever we order any sort of takeout, and sometimes we're the same way, like, the other night, like, it was a Friday, we both had a crazy week, and we're like, "You know what? We're just gonna order a fucking pizza, and we're gonna lay down in the guest room and watch TV," and we're just like, "Yeah."
Mhm.
And we've both full well knew the consequences of that decision.
Yes.
And sure enough, we ordered Domino's, we housed it, it was delicious, and the next morning, we were both up like 2.5 pounds, puffy, just like, "Oh, man." And the thing is that you don't realize how shitty food like that makes you feel until you, abstain from eating it for a while.
Right.
Because if you're always eating it, our bodies are pretty tough,
Yeah,
our bodies are pretty
they
resilient, and
they
we
they
won't build a
leather up
tolerance
there,
to
you
that
know?
shit. Yeah. We leather up, exactly. And, but when you pull away from it for a while and you eat clean and you have, like, a big pizza or a big gut bomb like a burrito, you're just like, "Oh, I feel awful. Oh my
Yeah.
god," you know? So the detox is, like, isn't the right way to describe it. It's just giving your body a break from eating like shit, so that way you can, you know, deflame,
Yeah, I think
process some of that sodium out,
yeah,
get some inflammation out of your system from all this from all the sodium and shit,
to
and then
processed
just like
foods, yeah, just like the
yeah.
high, I think that's really what it is. It's like you're not necessarily really detoxing, you're just like kind of taking a breather. And again, it's like
Yeah.
that might make you feel better. Maybe it's a good little reset, but that fundamentally, if it's always those extremes of like do whatever I want, pay no attention, do a
Mhm.
serious elimination restriction form of dieting or period of life, that's just not it's just not going to benefit you in the long run. It's just not going to
Mhm.
do it. And like I was, there's conversations to be had about certain herbs and certain things that like directly affect your lungs and help your lungs clear. And you know milk thistle definitely aids in repair of the liver, and that's like a plant like that's
Mhm.
been
Yeah,
scientifically proven.
turmeric reduces inflammation, like,
Yeah,
for
so it's like
sure.
again, so it's like people who are listening to this and gotten this far. It's like it's not to say that there aren't plants and herbs and behaviors that can aid the body and aid certain organs and aid certain systems. But I think that the fundamental thing that we're trying to say is that like you can't your body's already detoxing. Giving it a break will probably help you feel better in some capacity, but that it really does come down to the daily behaviors. And like Justin said, it's like if you run a marathon once in your life, but it was 30 years ago, you're not going to be in the best shape. And our body
Mhm.
has to be participated with it on a consistent basis, on a daily basis, in order to live our best lives and to be as healthy as we can be.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's the unfortunate truth that there's no magic pill,
For
and
real.
whatever benefit milk thistle or turmeric or all these things, it's like if you're throwing down fucking takeout and a bottle of wine every night, like, bro, you're missing the forest for the trees here, like
For sure.
it is marginal benefit at the top, at the very it's like icing on the cake, but the cake has to be just the basics, and that's just the hardest thing for people to realize. And I beat this drum so much, but it's just like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry there's not a one-word answer for your problem. I'm sorry that there's not just, like, the one quick fix. It is a series of baby steps. But
So, no, yeah,
anyways, okay.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. Well, alright, so that was episode 28 or 29, I forget.
I believe it's 29. I'm gonna go
Good,
sip on my bone broth
Coach
now.
Corner? Yeah, alright, go back to your detox teas, and, I'll we'll check you guys later. Peace out, Coach's
Have a
Corner.
good one.
Bye.